You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Indiana Fever drop another game to the Minnesota Lynx. They took them down 97-84. Indiana Fever, are they even prepared to play in the playoffs if they get in? Caitlin return. Where do we go? How do we implement Caitlin back into this? Indiana Fever defensive problems continue. We'll talk about that and more today on the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Indiana Fever are vying for a playoff spot, but is it a worthy playoff spot? The Indiana Fever got in the playoffs. It's obvious it'll be a first-round loss. I look at this 100 different ways. And again, you got Coach White, Coach Stephanie White, and it's just all the same, right? It's all the same. We couldn't execute what the coach wants. And because Stephanie White wants certain things to happen in her offense, when it doesn't happen, we didn't execute it right. On the defensive side of the ball, the Indiana Fever, folks, I can give you the game plan. I can tell you exactly what you need to do to stop it. But if the coaches aren't bought into it, and on the defensive side, the coaches are not bought in. There's nobody sitting over there that's saying, hey, this is the man that we have to play defense. And when you get to long range and you're giving up 3-point shots and you know the team is, you're basically playing 3 against 2. So even if the Indiana Fever got in the playoffs, let's say they come in there as the 8th seed and they got to play the 1. Who are they going to play? They're going to play the Minnesota Lynx. I mean, the outcome is going to be the same. I mean, does the Minnesota Lynx have to beat you 6 straight times for you to understand that you're not in the same caliber of basketball, but not from talent? Now, not from talent. And here's what I mean. The Indiana Fever are probably the only team in the WNBA that has players that have gotten injured and brings in better talent than the players they had on the roster, right? You got to ask yourself, when you look at Odyssey Sims, is she better than Colson? Yeah, she's better than Colson. There's no doubt about it. When you look at these things and you try to find out Ariel McDonald, well, no, Ariel McDonald presented a different flavor, but she's not able to play, so that's pretty simple there. But then you get to Ariel Powers. That's a ball player. That's a ball player. I mean, you got a whole other caliber of player that really won't be able to play in the Stephanie White offense or the Indiana Fever offense or the command of it. But when it comes to toughness and physical toughness, Ariel Powers can play basketball. You know what? You got to look at that player comes in there and really doesn't even know the offense. Gets 18 minutes, goes 2 of 6, and plays out, gets you 5 points, and comes out on the plus minus at 0. The reason Ariel Powers comes to plus minus at 0 is the fact that she works her tail off to be competitive and play hard on both ends of the floor. You look at Boston and Natasha Howard. Man, they just stick their hands up, 3-point shots going in, and you're really trading 3 to make 2, right? Because they're not bought in to getting out above that 3-point line. And Howard, just one time in the series, Howard gave up like 4 3-pointers in a row, right? Just late closeouts, not really protecting. And the Indiana Fever are not bought in on defense. Why do I know that? Because the Indiana Fever do not understand how to read offense. If they could understand how to read the offense, they would understand why their rotations are so important, because you're seeing wide open layups from the Indiana Fever. And that's because the Indiana Fever coaching staff just doesn't understand the defense. And they haven't emphasized it, right? They've emphasized the offense. But when it comes to defense, that's not a priority for the Indiana Fever. So when you get to the playoffs and you have to play the Lynx again, I mean, is there any happy and joy in playing those games? Probably not, because this is something that you really got to just find yourself, and you got to find yourself quickly, because here's the thing that's going to get kind of cautious and scary. You're starting to hear the rumble of Caitlin return. You're starting to hear the rumbles of Caitlin return. Now, when Caitlin returns, what's Stephanie White going to try to do? Coach Caitlin after Caitlin's been watching this debacle? I mean, you're losing all your credibility right in front of your top player's eyes, and she's watching this again and again. So you got to look at Caitlin return now, folks. You know, I gave you a simple Caitlin return the last time, and I'm gonna give you a different one this time. Caitlin needs to play Caitlin's game. I mean, you're gonna have to shut out Coach White. Because Coach White's going to try to get in your ear. That's her game. She wants to get into point guard's ears. But with Caitlin Clark, for the Indiana Fever to turn this back and be about the return of Caitlin, you got to let Caitlin play. And you got to let Caitlin does what Caitlin needs to do best. You got to let Caitlin run this team, and you got to get out of the way because your style of playing, they're losing. And it was a clip I kept looking at. I kept looking at it again and again on the style of play, right? And so Caitlin had a wide open break, had a man ahead, and Stephanie White was like, no, Duke, don't make that play. Pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Well, we got an easy bucket. We get on to the next play, right? But that's the management style of Stephanie White. Now, here's the deal. When it comes to X's and O's, either the players get it or the players don't. I mean, I can go through 1,000 drills, 1,000 scenarios to tell you. Because the Fever need to really, I mean, for each player on the Indiana Fever, folks, that's how it works. And when you get to dealing with pros, you got it, especially with the women, right? Because clipboards, I guarantee you, these players on the Indiana Fever, if you put a clipboard in their hand and say, go to the board, show me what we're doing on defense and how we read the offense to make sure we execute, they couldn't do it, right? Because they haven't been taught that. So they don't understand when you make a switch how important it is for Boston to show, right? If you don't show and then you get there and we both get caught behind the screen, and that's what happened, right? You got to look at that because you got Shea Petty. Shea Petty's going underneath the screen. You got Natasha Howard saying, look, hang on, I'm going. You got Boston's not going to show. So all these things are happening, and this is the most important thing with Caitlin's return. Caitlin's offense is the best Indiana Fever defense. Let's be honest about it. Caitlin's offense is the best Indiana Fever defense. And why? It's because Caitlin can score. Caitlin can control the assists. Yeah, folks, you know, at the end of the day, Caitlin may have 10 turnovers, but right now we need those 20 assists. The pace of the Indiana Fever is off. The only person can fix it is Caitlin Clark. And right now, by judging by the Indiana Fever fans' comments, and I'm not saying Money Mike, I'm saying the Indiana Fever comment, they're like, Stephanie White can't fix this, folks. Stephanie White doesn't have knowledge. They are like, fire Stephanie White. This is ridiculous. And Stephanie White's got pieces. I'm going to tell you now, first thing I look for in a coach, can you orchestrate the defense and can you get these dogs to run it? Now, how do I know the Indiana Fever don't know defense? Let me repeat. How can I sit here and tell you the Indiana Fever don't know defense? Well, here's why. Indiana Fever don't attack the trap spots, right? There's traps all over there. I'm looking like trap that, double down here, trap here. Indiana Fever don't blitz, right? Indiana Fever don't blitz, right? They don't get out there every day and say, look, we're going to blitz. How do I know they're not committed and buying? Because if you get one player that shows the effort of Lexi Hull, this is why Lexi is so valuable. Maybe not to Coach White, but I'm going to tell you, to a lot of coaches, Lexi Hull is a valuable basketball player. When I see one player pick it up like that, I'm going to command the rest of my team, y'all step up with her, right? But Stephanie White's not demanding anybody step up with Lexi Hull. You're allowing Lexi to go out there and play 40 minutes of hard stick soccer player. I'll go all night long. I'm going to play both ends of the floor, but you're not requiring everybody else to play both ends of the floor. And folks, when you're giving up threes, okay, and it's the same player. I'm talking about Natasha Howard just walking out to the three-point line. They're just making threes. I mean, between the two-game series, folks, and nobody wants to break it down. But when you break it down, Howard gave up at least 8 or 9 three-point shots. Just lazy, going under screens, man, lazy, doing stuff that doesn't commit to making the defense great. And that's the problem, right? That's the problem. So even if the Indiana Fever get in the playoffs, if they do make it to the playoff and Caitlin returns, this is what you're going to have to do. You have to give Stephanie White specific instructions. Get out the way. Caitlin, go win a playoff game for it. Go win the series, because the Indiana Fever had this, I don't know, notion that they were better without Caitlin Clark. Well, that sounds good, right? I mean, it sounds good till you put it on paper. And Stephanie White believed that. And Kelly believed it. And the coaches of the Indiana Fever believed it. And President Kelly believed it. Now, to the natural human being walking around in America, they would say you're absolutely crazy to think the Indiana Fever are better without Caitlin Clark. But that's how the mind progresses. And that's how some coaches feel because they think it's all about them. See, but championship coaches know it's not all about you. Ask Phil Jackson. He's got a bunch of rings. He sat back and said, hey, I got Michael Jordan. I got Kobe Bryant. I got Shaq. What the heck you guys really need me for just to keep the natives quiet, right? That's all it is. It's not when you get a generational talent, first of all, we know, and I tell you this again and again, and you always hear me say this, just like Shady McCoy said. If you're going to have a Hall of Fame player, you need a coach that's on a Hall of Fame trajectory, right? They've got to be going into. Aaron Rodgers is going to play for Mike Tomlin. These two need each other better than anybody else, Pittsburgh Steelers. Why? Because Aaron has never played for a Hall of Fame coach, right? And here you go. This is going to be his first opportunity, and Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. Honestly, folks, these players that you got, I mean, you're talking about some superstars. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you're talking about Lexi Hull, you're talking about Aaliyah Boston, you're talking about Caitlin Clark, and you're talking about Kelsey Mitchell, and then you're talking about Sophie Cunningham. I mean, you gotta have some knowledge that you're gonna give these big players because they don't buy what you're saying at the press conference. They're not believing in you. And you don't really understand that just yet because you're still believing that they believe in you and they've checked out. These players have checked out, right? They checked out. Yeah, we'll give you 5-10 minutes of hard work, but after that, it's a day off for the Indiana Fever. Folks, this is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Indiana Fever dropped a game last night, 97-84. I mean, it's just an embarrassing moment. Indiana Fever cannot win at the Fieldhouse. How in the world? This is where it gets me. Because when you get on national TV, Floyd Mayweather said it best. Sometimes you can't stand the bright lights. Folks, I'll tell you, sometimes you just can't stand the bright lights. The lights are too bright for Stephanie White. And Stephanie White is not at this level. And I'll tell you guys another thing. For all those who are calling Connecticut the worst team in the league, Connecticut's going to be one of the best teams in the league. Why? Because the coach got a system. He put it on you, man. He put it on you. Indiana Fever came back and won the game, but you're not going to be beating Connecticut soon. You're not going to beat the LA Sparks. You're going to have trouble beating the Storm, and it's always going to come back to the same excuse. We don't have practice. We don't have the players. We're a new team. It takes time to get to. Folks, that's not how basketball works. These players are good. You just don't know how to coach them. And you don't know how to put them in a system to win because you only have one system. And you know what? I mean, God forbid if you didn't have Mitchell. Good Lord, who else is going to take the curl? Now you're going to score 58 points a game. Folks, this is a reality. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. I'm telling you, Indiana Fever, right? Playoffs? I don't know. Caitlin return, get out the way, Stephanie White. Get out the way, coaching staff. Get out the way. Let Caitlin do what Caitlin does because obviously Indiana Fever are not a better team without Caitlin. Your defense is not on point. And if you don't have Caitlin offsetting the defense, right? She's got to offset that with her play. And she doesn't need to be coached. She just needs to be turned loose. The Indiana Fever have got a big time up where I don't know if they can fix it. They've got problems, but the problems isn't talent. I'll tell you that. This is the only team I know that you were able to go out there and get hardship players improving your talent level. Is it the Indiana Fever? Are they doing the right thing? Or are they not? Because Erica Wheeler was on the bench. Now Erica Wheeler is a starter, right? And they're going to play against you, right, coming in with Seattle. And Seattle's coming to get the game, right? There's no doubt about it. And then you got Grace Berger over there in Dallas. Well, she could play for the Indiana Fever, but, you got Kurt Miller over there who's getting 30 minutes a game. So some of these players are leaving. And then you got Timmy, right? So some of this has got to fall on the organizational level. Guys, you guys made some bad mistakes. You made some bad mistakes on the Indiana Fever. You can't fix it. And now you're trying to figure out a way to soften the blow when the cat's out of the bag because the Indiana Fever fans feel ripped off. They feel ripped off. They feel that you misled them. You told them a bunch of things that wasn't true. You promised a lot of things. They bought the tickets, bought the road tickets, and in the end, none of it ever happened. That's called being hoodwinked, bamboozled. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. Folks, sometimes I just deliver it the way it is. The Indiana Fever, Caitlin's return. Get out the way. Let Caitlin run it and let the chips fall where they fall because you've been running it and the chips are not falling where they're supposed to be. All things are possible to those who believe. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast.